Hello, 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 and welcome or welcome back. I'm Shakia, and in this episode, we're going to talk about Love Without Borders, Season 1, Episode 7. Let's get into it. Okay, Episode 7, we see Naeem and Chandra both have conversations at separate times with Erica over the phone. And Erica cut to the chase with Chandra. She's like, "Look, do you have another man in your life?" I'm paraphrasing. And Chandra said, "I have a friend. And I'm not attracted to him that way anymore. Like he is just my friend, but he likes me like that." Erica tells her, "Look, you need to sit with yourself and have a conversation with yourself and really do some digging on this whole situation." Chandra told Erica that there were some personality clashes, and for this reason, it was a turnoff because Naeem in the beginning was very goofy and silly. We've talked about this. I've made videos talking about Naeem being silly, and I said if they could find a balance, then these two could probably be a good fit with one another if there was a balance. So if Chandra allowed herself to be silly at times, but also accepted Naeem's silliness, and Naeem was silly, but also knew when to turn that off a little bit because it was time to have like a mature or serious conversation. Erica did share why she matched Naeem and Chandra. Erica said, "Look, you need a strong and compassionate man. I saw those parts in him." She saw those parts in Naeem. And she said that she wanted Chandra to keep her heart open throughout this process, and that she sees Naeem and Chandra as two people who can strengthen one another. And so during this conversation, Chandra became tearful. And further into the episode, she and Naeem go to what looks like it looks like it's a Christmas festival, and they sit down on a bench. And Chandra tells Naeem that it was wrong for her to invite Enrique. And Naeem says, "I appreciate that." I'm like, "Yes, Chandra, because if Enrique was really just your friend and he didn't have any feelings for you and y'all, were still really cool, like, okay, that's one thing. But if you invite him, if you invite him out with you all and you know that he still has feelings for you and you let him sleep in your bed while you're sleeping in your bed, so y'all sleep in the bed together, but you know that Naeem is here to figure out whether or not you all can be something more, that's messed up. Like that is messed up. It's disrespectful." So Chandra does apologize. Naeem, he says he's thankful for that. Fast forward, Naeem does tell Chandra that he would like to replace one of the doors in her house. And we see a flashback to, I believe it was the first day that Naeem was there with her. And Naeem saw this big hole in the door and he said, "Did you do this?" And Chandra said, "No, it was my ex." And so Chandra, revealed, she opened up to him that past relationship was abusive, and it was physically abusive. And so fast forward to episode 7, Naeem says, "Look, I would like to replace this door. I understand that this could be a trigger for you. It could take you back to a time where it wasn't really safe for you to be here. It's a reminder." And so you can see that while she doesn't say very much, Chandra becomes tearful and she's a little like guarded, not in a way where she wants to be evasive, but in a way where this is something that's obviously very real for her. This is her lived experience, right? And so she does consent to having the door replaced. And she said in one of her confessional scenes that this is a different side of Naeem, and she was grateful to see this side of him. And throughout this episode, we really got to see Naeem's compassion and his kindness, which I thought was a great side to see, considering before we saw just the silliness and the goofiness. But it seems like he's making an effort to really have that balance, because I don't want anybody to have to change themselves completely, right? So if Naeem is unable to find that balance, and if Chandra is unable to accept some of his personality traits, then they're not going to work. You know what I did find interesting? In the confessional scenes, the cast will usually speak in present tense. Obviously, we know that they're talking about stuff that already happened, but generally they'll speak in the present tense. However, in episode 7, Naeem spoke in past tense. Naeem says things may not have worked out, romantically between them, but he's realizing that she values him as a friend in this process. So he said it didn't work out romantically. So I'm wondering, is he just talking about up until this point? Or did he slip up and he let us know, like, you know what? This is not a romantic connection, but we are friends. We found we found friendship with one another. And so I'm wondering what that's about because I don't know. Am I digging? Am I stretching it? But I thought that was interesting. And so listen, look, again, while we saw Naeem be silly and goofy in the beginning episodes, I love that we got to see a different side of his personality. And I believe Chandra enjoyed seeing that as well. And she even said she appreciated his kindness and him caring for her. And he spoke to her with such compassion and such kindness and such love. And so if they don't work out romantically, then at least they found friendship. But I do listen, this is a show called Love Without Borders. I want them to I want them to find some romantic love, but nonetheless, friendship is also great. Let me know in the comments, what do you think? Do you think that Naeem meant it didn't work out romantically up until this point? But perhaps if the two of them, if they stay on this journey, then maybe it will work out and this will be a romantic match. What do we think? Or did Chandra just really mess up when she with this whole Enrique ordeal? But I Naeem seems forgiving, so I still think that there's potential here for them to work out. Maybe even though on the surface, see now I'm second guessing myself because I'm like they definitely seem different. I think by the time this process is over, even if they are not a romantic match, that they found some sort of common ground and I can see them being friends at the end. What do you think? Okay, moving on. Next up, we have Gurleen and Shreyas. If you watched the episode, were you surprised by what happened? Because I wasn't. I said, or typed it out rather, in another video that I did not think they would work out because there were just too many miscommunications. Gurleen seemed extremely guarded, and it didn't seem as if she was putting in enough effort into this experience. I just didn't think that they were going to work out. And I said that it's probably going to be over sooner rather than later and that they won't even finish the experiment. And guess what? I was right. Because episode 7, Gurleen goes home. Gurleen goes home in episode 7. Erica comes over to the apartment. She said, let's jump to it. Let's get to it. Shreyas, so they rehash a little bit about what happened the night prior, where they went to the party, and after the party, they were outside waiting for a taxi. They get into a discussion about equal rights. Gurleen starts filming it, so they start talking more about this. And Erica is saying, okay, look, let's get to it. So Shreya says there is no romance. I don't feel a romantic connection. And Gurleen says there's no romance, there is no chemistry or connection. Erica says at this point, Gurleen, I take mental health seriously, and so it's best that you go home. Gurleen was upset because she's like, it's one thing for me to talk about mental health, but it's different when another person says it. She goes, I didn't say that that was the only reason why I wanted to go home. Erica interrupted her politely, and she said, Gurleen, I adore you, XYZ. So she's going through the conversation. She said, but didn't you tell me last night that you wanted to go home because this wasn't good for your mental health? And Gurleen says, yes, but it was more than that. And so Erica's like, look, like essentially, we don't need to keep going back and forth. And I think I understand where Gurleen is coming from, although I agree with Erica. Like we talked about this, I'm agreeing with you. It's time for you to go home because this isn't working out with you and Shreyas, and you said yourself that this isn't good for you. But to Gurleen's point, when somebody else phrases it like, I take mental health very seriously, I think you should go home, it does kind of send the message that there might be something else going on. And we don't know what type of ramifications Gurleen might, experience because of that, whether or not that might be an issue at her job or, just different things on how that might backfire. I understand that, but I don't know, I think I just have difficulty with Gurleen, so even how she responded to it, I'm like, "Just at this point, Gurleen, just go pack your bags, girl. Go pack your bags." So Erica leaves, and Shreya said that he was hoping that he and Gurleen could have a conversation. He said when Erica left, Gurleen went straight to production. She turned the mic off and she went in the hallway and she's like, I need to talk to you. He said he doesn't know what that conversation was, what took place during that conversation. When she came back into the apartment, she went in her room and he said he's still sitting there like, okay, I would like to say something. Now, I'm wondering why he didn't knock on the door and ask her, is it okay if I come in? Is it okay if we talk? Do you want me to turn off my mic? Like, he could have done that, but he didn't. And I don't know what was going on, right? What they didn't show us. If I don't know what her behavior was because she definitely seemed really upset. So maybe that's why he was like, maybe this isn't a good idea. But I am wondering, why he didn't just knock on the door and ask her whether or not he could speak with her privately. But by the time Gurleen comes out of her room, she has her little knapsack on and she leaves. Not a goodbye, not a nothing, not a goodbye, not a see you later, nothing. So then, Shreyas, he shares this information with his family, like, yes, she left. We're not continuing with this experience together anymore. And his father's like, why? No, make it work. This is silly. Make it work. And and Shreyas says, no, it's not gonna work. And she wanted to go home. And they're like, but she always seemed fine around everybody. And essentially, Shreya said, look, when she's around other people, whenever there are social interactions, she's great. It's good. But whenever it's just she and I by ourselves, she's off in her room. And so he says that he does wish that she would have made more of an effort throughout this process. And I agree. From what we saw, the edits that were there, right? This final product, it did not seem as if she made a significant effort to get to know this man. I'm wondering if she could have really put the effort in to get to know him a little bit better and learn what his values were in a safe environment versus an environment where it became an argument. And I imagine that Shreyas may have been on the defense, especially when Gurleen pulled out her phone to record that argument, which they discussed during episode 6. So at this point, Gurleen is gone. She's gone. Now, here's what I did like, because remember when I talked about episode 6, I said, look, if Aaron is not into this, and I'm talking about a different couple right now, obviously. But if Aaron isn't into this, then send him home and bring in another match for Mayel. Guess what? Gurleen went home. Erica comes back to the apartment and she says, look, there's a woman here in Dubai. She's from America. I would like for you two to meet. Okay, so they have an additional match. They have an alternate, which I like. I think these shows need that because sometimes some people are just not a good fit for these shows. They're not. So now we have to wait until episode 8 to see what Shreyas says. Will he take Erica up on this offer to meet with a new potential match? We'll find out episode 8. Let's keep watching. What do you think about Gurleen going home? Are you happy about it? Yes? Was this like, come on, is this a surprise to us? I don't think it's a surprise to most of us watching. So, good luck, Gurleen. Good luck, girlie. I wish you all the best, honey. I do. I really, really do. Next up, we have Dana and Brian. There really wasn't much to them this week. Um, we see Dana outside singing on the street. She said she met somebody, I believe at a farmer's market. I can't remember the man's name, but she met a new friend, and she borrowed some equipment, and now she was outside just a singing. And she has a nice voice. What do you think about Dana's singing voice? She has a nice voice. She got a few tips, and Brian was there, and they had a moment that they shared together toward the end of one of her songs. They go back home, And they're sitting at the table, and Brian says, "How about we watch a movie tonight?" And Dana says, "Let's write a song together." Dana said that she thinks that writing together will lighten the mood and they can have some fun together and it can help them to connect. And so they come up with this so silly song and they are having fun. Um After a while I'm thinking, "Okay, Dana, let's stop with the song and maybe go watch a movie, maybe go do something else because I don't know if Brian was that interested." He did say that he enjoyed seeing a different side of her, but I don't know. I think ah See, I'll be honest. This match, I was rooting for them when we first saw them, episode, what was it, 1? I was rooting for them. I thought that they were both at a place in their life where this could be a great moment and time to settle down and meet someone special and have this unique experience. I don't know at this point. Maybe they also will end up just as friends. Dana still does seem a little bit not closed off completely, but a little bit more guarded. So we will see what happens with Dana and Brian. What do we think? What are your predictions? Perhaps I'll do a separate episode and do what my predictions are for the couples because at this point, y'all, I don't know if anybody's gonna stay together. I know who I initially thought would be together and who I wanted to be together. And now it's shaping up where it's one I got right with Gurleen and Shreyas. That was gonna end. I said they have the potential to be a match with each other, but as we continue to see, it's like, nope, it's not gonna work. Okay, but I'll talk about that in a different episode. What do you think about Dana and Brian? We see a little bit of a teaser regarding them for next week's episode, and Dana still seems guarded and she kind of says something to that effect. So we'll keep watching. Let me know in the comments what you think about this particular pair. Okay, moving right along, we have Aaron and Mael. Listen, they called Erica together, okay? You know how Chandra and Naeem, they spoke to Erica separately, different times of the day, but Aaron and Mael, they were like, listen, And I think it was Aaron who said, at what point do we just give up and stop trying? If things aren't working out, if we aren't romantic, at what point do we give up? And Erica said, look, y'all are jumping the gun. Slow down. She gave them homework to do. She told Aaron specifically to continue to express himself creatively. And she had them exchange statements to each other. I almost felt like I was back in church, you know, when the pastor says, turn to your neighbor, neighbor, oh neighbor. But she had them say these different statements to one another, which I actually thought were really great. Um, Unfortunately, I can't recall what they were right now, and I did not write them down. But they were great statements. I thought it was very touching. It was very touching. So then eventually, Aaron and Mael, they go for a walk. It looks like they're in a park. They sit down and, you know, they're continuing with this conversation and they find a moment where it's like, oh, wait a minute, perhaps we can connect. So through this conversation that they were having, it's like maybe we were jumping the gun. If both of us are open to this, then let's give this a real try. From this moment on, let's give this a real try. So fast forward, they are back at Mael's apartment. They're drinking some wine, and Aaron does what Erica suggested, which was express himself creatively. So Mr. Aaron, he drew, well, they had some they created some spicy art. Let's put it that way. They created some spicy art. They both held up their spicy art and Aaron said, "Well, things in America are bigger." Wink wink. We see a teaser for next week, and Aaron is still there. They didn't bring in another match from Mael. Perhaps at this point, they are both going to be fully committed. And by both, I really mean Aaron. He will be fully committed to this process, and they can see where it goes. Watch Aaron and Mael actually work out. Let me know in the comments, what do you think? Okay, and as the episode continues, we have Phil and Carmen. Phil and Carmen. Okay, so they go out. Phil meets Carmen's friends. He's a little nervous and they share a lot of jokes, a lot of laughs. Phil asks, so did you tell them that I'm a germaphobe? And she's like, yeah, I did. And now they get to see this for themselves in person. And it was really cute. And so, they just they all were laughing and connecting, and I thought it was really great. And this is the thing with Phil and Carmen. I think that they have chemistry. I really do. I think that there is something there with them. It feels familiar. Looking at it as the viewer, it seems very familiar. Like they are very familiar with each other. Look, I'm going to be honest. I am rooting for Phil and Carmen. I am, because I think I see there is something. Now, here is the issue. Are they aligned with one another, right? Are they both at a stage in their life, or at the stage in their life where they are both ready for a serious, committed relationship? Because they go out, they end up drinking, they're having a good time. It's about 5 something in the morning. Phil is back at home. He says Carmen isn't home. He tried to call her. He went up to her room, all this stuff. Carmen is not home. And he said he doesn't feel like Carmen is really making room for him. And he feels like he might be a burden on Carmen. He was talking with one of his friends on the phone. His friend asked him, can he fit into her life? And he's like, I don't know. Because he said she goes out, she does her own thing. And so it sounds like he is feeling left behind or left out because maybe she's not including him. And why might that be? Well, when they were meeting with the friends, and Phil was talking about being a germaphobe, and one of the friends who was sitting next to Phil, he talked about having malaria several times. I think like 20 times, 40 times, something like that. And Phil is looking like, And so he's like easing away. And then he's asking, like, well, how can you get it? And he's like, can you get it through saliva? And then Carmen in her confessional is like, why is he concerned about that? He hasn't even tried to kiss me. Perhaps Carmen is thinking that Phil isn't that invested in her because he hasn't made a move on her physically. And maybe for her, that's what she needs, and that's an indication that the other person might be interested. But I think we are at a stage in our lives, right? We're all adults, and at this point, it's important for us to communicate. And so I'm wondering if she does feel that way, like, hey, what's up? Are you even into me? You haven't tried to kiss me. We haven't been romantic at all. She should have that conversation with Phil versus just going out doing her own thing, because now if he feels like there is no room in her life for him, why would he continue to make any type of an effort? So again, this goes back to what we've been talking about with all of the couples. They all need to make an effort. They need to put in the equal amount of effort. One person can't be doing more than the other, because then that's going to create its own tension. They need to put in the equal amount of effort to give this an actual shot. And if they're not going to do that, then let's have that conversation. Let's speak up about that so we can end this. Don't waste each other's time. And please don't waste our time as the viewers. Don't waste our time. So listen, she does not come back. We see a teaser for next week's episode. And at this point, she did return. And they're having a conversation. And he says, you go and you leave me here. And then she walks away. So I'm wondering what is going on with Carmen. Where is she going when she leaving? Tell us, what is she doing? Is she going to work? Is she going to hang out? Like, who's she hanging out with? What's really going on, Carmen? Do you want to be with Phil? Because, and I've said this, and I'm going to stand by this, okay? I had to check with myself for a second. Yes, I'm going to stand by this. I believe that Phil and Carmen are a good match for one another. I can see why Erica put these two together. None of that matters, though, if they're actually not ready, because they may have said one thing on their questionnaire, right, or in their interviews to be matched. They may have said or written down something completely different from what's happening now. And so maybe being put in this process, they're like, oh, snap, I don't know if this is really what I want anymore, or I'm not sure if this is what I want in terms of certain qualities, certain personality traits. My point is, I can see why they were matched together. None of that matters if you don't put in the time, you don't put in the effort, and you don't commit to this process. You don't commit to being in the process with the person you were matched with. So, if Carmen can get her act right and they can get on the same page, I think there is something there. Should I do a video talking about the couples and who I think is going to stay together and who I think won't? Would you be interested in seeing that? Let me know. Let me know. Okay, what did you think about episode 7? What did you think about Gurleen going home? Was it really a surprise? What did you think about Aaron staying? The fact that he's still there, that might be the bigger surprise. What do you think about Phil and Carmen, where it seems like Phil is being left out or feeling left out, and maybe Carmen doesn't have room for him in her life? And what about Naeem and Chandra? Are they just friends? Ah. So much to consider. So much to consider. Listen, I'll keep watching. You keep watching. Come on back. Let's talk about this. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I appreciate you, and I appreciate you for being here. I want you to go out and have a courageous day. And when you get ready, come on back for the next one. But until then, bye for now.